from the College by the Lake, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Local, regional, national, and international guests discussing the issues and topics affecting the way you live are on Forum, the North Idaho College Public Forum, with your host and moderator, political scientist Tony Stewart.
Our topic today is youth and adult camps. We want to look at why we have camps around the United States and even other countries for retreats and workshops, training and rest and relaxation. There are many purposes for both youth and adults to go on retreat to camps to enjoy them, and particularly in the summertime. And we've done this program for 25 years and never covered this topic. It's exciting that no matter how long we do this program, we find new topics as well as other topics that we repeat. And we're very pleased to welcome two guests today that certainly are qualified to address our topic. I welcome to the program, first of all, Bob Baker, who is the director of the Luther Haven Camp here in North Idaho. And with him today is the assistant director of that camp, Steve Meyer. Gentlemen, thank you for coming, and we know you're busy, but we're so delighted always that people will come by and do this program and inform our viewers on the exciting and important topics. And again, welcome.
Thanks for having us. Thanks.
And as always, I'm pleased to have regular panelist Janelle Burke, who's an attorney in the state of Idaho, and we shall ask Janelle today to commence the questioning with our two guests.
Bob, I want to start with my first question for you. Years ago, everybody went to camp, and it was kids who went to camp. They spent their week at camp, and then they came home. Can you give us a bit of history of camping and how it's evolving, what is happening today?
Sure, you bet. It's interesting that camps around the country are celebrating 50th anniversaries in these last 2 or 3 years and on into the next couple of years. I think out of World War II, a lot of foxhole conversations and discussions about needs back home led to the birth of the camping industry, where it really took hold and went great guns from there. And so camps were born as places where people could go, kids could go, families could go for retreat and renewal, and basically to get away from it all. It's interesting that originally camps were formed as camping organizations, and so they were fairly rustic. That camping word was very much a part of it. There were outhouses, and they had lumpy mattresses, and they had cold showers, and camping has really changed through the years into a large industry, but that's how it all started.
What are some of the new trends, Steve, that are happening right now in camping? Who camps now? Just kids?
Oh, it's way beyond kids. A lot of adult groups come out as well. Corporations are using camp facilities more often for training programs. Women's retreats are phenomenal, quilting retreats, and just about any group that could meet elsewhere comes to camp for a place to get away from the things that are at work and at home, and it's just different being away from the city in a place where you can go, and it's a lot about community, and there's a lot to be learned and in a different environment.
Bob, who has camps? Who are the sponsors or the organizations that have camps?
A lot of private camps. Private individuals would own a camp and operate a camp. Corporations would form camps. In this area, there are a lot of church camps, church bodies, either denominational camps or even individual churches that own and operate their own camp. And then, of course, a lot of the youth organizations, the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, Campfire Boys and Girls, and groups like that run their own camps, as well as some of the organizations like the American Lung Association and specialty camps like that for kids with special challenges.
Now, who comes to camp these days, Steve? What kinds of people come to camp?
All kinds of people. And one trend that I've been seeing is more for the older adult population is starting to get back into the camping thing, and I haven't been here in 35, 50 years, and the kitchen still smells the same way that it did when I was here as a kid. And they're coming back because they've got some free time on their hands, and they're just want to be in that outdoor environment. And
they're the ones that started the camps 50 years ago, and they're going back to their roots, really.
Interesting to see it come all the way around.
Yeah.
And are people just camping at camp now, or are there programs that go elsewhere?
Oh boy, we've got camps ourselves that travel all over the Northwest. Adventure camping is becoming really big for the young people. Kids are looking for more bang for their buck, sort of thing, and so we'll take them backpacking and whitewater rafting and mountain climbing and canoeing and all sorts of adventure kind of programming like that.
A lot of times they'll come to a camp for an experience that they wouldn't normally get in their family or in their school group. We'll do sailing camps occasionally, and kids don't get to sail anywhere else, and there's just, they come to learn something new a lot of times, whether that's a fine arts program or whether it's a music program or whatnot. So,
I want to expand this beyond the experience that you're talking about. You've done a really good job talking about the different kinds of organizations that own and sponsor camps and the age groups that come, but we're located here in the Northwest, and your camp is here, but also they are camps that are in other parts of the United States, even other parts of the world. And Bob, I will start with you, and if you could share with us what some knowledge you have of, is this a worldwide interest, and is it growing around the world?
There is a worldwide, in fact, camping organization where camps from all over the world are together in several different organizations. So it is a worldwide thing. In fact, I think originally it began in Europe and England and on the continent and spread to this country historically. And so camping really is a worldwide trade, and lots of camps, even stateside, will have camps that will go overseas. Might take kids to on an adventure sailing experience to the Hawaiian Islands or to the China Sea or to Africa or someplace like that. So you can really find camps that are close to home or about as far away as you want to get.
Each of you, as you make certain comments, you trigger other thoughts in my mind and other questions. As you indicated that even though an organization may own a camp and have its customers there, they also may take them even sometimes a year to other places. Is there any kind of exchange program where individuals that own a particular camp will take their people somewhere else, and the people from that camp will come, like we do in education, where faculty will switch positions for a year, those kind of things?
That type of thing does happen a lot. For example, we do servant event type programs where kids will come to camp to work, and they'll come from all over the country, and the kids in this area will go to other parts of the country for that type of thing. And we do work occasionally with other camps as well on exchange programs. One neat area that I see in outdoor ministry and in camping is a foreign counselor program. Camp Counselors USA runs a program where they'll bring counselors from all over the world into different camps throughout the United States, and some counselors from the United States as well going overseas. And it's neat to see the influence that brings into a camp situation. I know we've had counselors from Tanzania. We've got another fellow coming back this year, and from Russia and Finland in the past. And it's a good dynamic to have on your staff. It just broadens the whole experience for campers as well as counselors.
So there's really a cultural interchange that takes place, and your staff learns things that they can then share with others that come to the camp, even from this area.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking with Steve even this morning. We're talking about bringing on board our staff some people with physical challenges themselves. It's a good experience for them, for the challenged people, but it's also a good experience for our staff to be able to work in close conjunction with people with disabilities, so that they can learn from each other.
So you as directors of a camp, and others would be in the same situation, must be versatile. That is, you work with a lot of different kinds of people that come.
Flexibility is a real key to camping ministry, because it's always changing. We're constantly changing seasons and shifting gears and moving from summer to fall to winter to spring, and every season has something different happening.
I have a brochure here with me that I'm going to show our viewers. Your camp, but there's other camps that have the same kind of brochures, and I was looking through here, and you have all these summer sports and you have winter sports, and it's hard to decide whether one is more attractive than the other. So that is another point we're making, and that is that it's year-round now. Most camps are, and people have preferences when they
About 25 years ago, camps were faced with a dilemma, because the summer camp program wasn't paying for the operation of the camp, and they had to make a change in that program. And so about 25 years ago, lots of camps around the country went to a year-round programming, and basically their winter program is what keeps them afloat. through the summer.
I have one final question before I go back to Janelle Burke, and that has to do with, Steve, what you were talking about a moment ago about some exchange. Now, is there any national, international organization other than what you've identified, which I'm thinking a more broad perspective? Most all occupations have some kind of national, international associations, and so is there anything else that provides information between these organizations around the world?
Bob?
American Camping Association is the big one on this side that camps belong to and are part of. That's the professional organization. And so they do have some connections, again, with the international camping organizations.
And so you share information, and it's kind of a clearinghouse. And
that's correct. They keep us abreast of the trends in the camping industry. They keep us abreast of situations that come up from a legal standpoint, and it's a good organization to belong to.
That's another area we might get into later about liability.
Yeah.
But I'll return to Janelle Burke.
My question is going to have to do with picking a camp. Let's suppose that you are a parent or a grandparent, or even for yourself, you want to pick a camp now to go to. You have some time and you have some interest. How do you decide which camp are you going to go to? Are there certain things you should look for, like is it at an accredited camp? What about the cost and those kinds of things? Bob, let's start with you. What are some of the first things that you should have on your list to determine if you're going to select a camp?
Boy, there's all sorts of criteria, and I think it really depends on what the child is looking for and what the parents are looking for. First of all, there are lots and lots of, for instance, sports camps that are out there, basketball camps and baseball camps and so forth, football camps. And so that's one whole genre of camps, and then there's the whole adventure camping idea, where the youth are going to be going backpacking or whitewater rafting or something like that. So there's a whole nother area that they could choose from. Depends on how far away you want to send your child from home, whether it's their first time away, second time away, third time away. The cost is a factor because there's quite a difference in degree in the cost. If you're going to send your child to camp and they're going to sail to Hawaii, that's going to have one cost factor as opposed to sending your child across the county to a camp. So there are all sorts of factors that you would look at. In our particular case, since we are associated with a religious organization, with a denomination, there's that factor as well. So it really depends on what they're looking for. On-site facilities, an accredited camp with the American Camping Association. Lots of parents look for that. People call and say, "Are you an accredited camp?" And because our camp is accredited, we do have certain standards that we have to follow. And
what are some of those standards? For example, what do they look at when they're going to accredit you?
Standards apply a lot to the facility and whether it's handicap accessible, for instance. Also, your hiring practices, for example, doing criminal records checks on all your counselors, and your hiring procedures is one thing that you would look at.
Safety concerns are really highlighted. Vehicle safety, building safety, first aid, food services are high standards, and so that would be something to look for in a camp if parents are concerned about those things.
Now, my next question has to do with components of a good program. What are the kinds of things, when you're designing a program, that you want to see in that program? I would take it there'd be some education component in there. I would take it that you also are looking for staff component, that is, interpersonal relationships. Mm-hmm. What do you think are some of the good components of a good camping program?
The kids have got to grow. They've got to learn something, and that depends a lot on.
And if it's adults, they've got to grow.
Exactly, the same thing applies. Camp's a lot about community, is what I'm coming to understand. Is it's about learning to live with each other, whether that's in a camper group of 7-year-olds for the first time away from home, and they're fighting over who gets to be in the top bunk, or whether it's a corporate group and they're tackling the wall on the challenge course, and they don't want to pick up that last person and help them over the wall. It's about community, and that growth is a very important component, that they're learning something while they're in this different environment. Another thing that's got to be there is fun. They've got to laugh. When we bring a group out, the first thing we try to do is just to get them to feel relaxed and enjoy themselves and laugh, and they're going to feel more comfortable, and they're going to grow more in that type of environment.
Kids, I think, kids and adults have forgotten how to have fun. Yeah. It's something that's foreign to a lot of us, how to laugh and really have a good time and just be silly. And so that's a lot of a lot of breaking the ice and breaking the ground so that people can grow and build on the trust and the communication and the listening skills and the problem solving and all those things that are part of that growth experience.
Janelle is so wonderful in her questions, and she really sparked my interest. I'm going to shift gears here because of her question. You both were in agreement that you're seeing a change as people come there, have forgot how to have fun and laugh. So I just can't resist with your expertise and background is, well, what's happening in society that's causing that, and why is it necessary at a camp to stress that such techniques as relaxing and having fun, what has changed in society? And can I take this further to say that you're indicating that somewhat a loss of sense of humor? Something must be causing that to happen.
I guess one of the breakdowns that I see at a corporate level when we're dealing with more adult groups and ropes course type specifically is the trust factor. That they can't necessarily trust the person on the rung ahead of them, so it's not safe to have fun with them and to laugh. And camp is the type of place where that trust factor is built back up, and they feel comfortable with each other again, and they can start to communicate more effectively.
The corporate world has really changed. It used to be you couldn't trust that person because that person was out to take your commission, take your job, take your promotion, take your whatever. Corporations are now going to the whole team concept, and so they're forced to have to work together. They're forced to have to learn how to communicate and trust and listen. On the family level, on the community level, I think the fact that the world is going faster and faster and faster, change is happening faster and faster and faster, has affected the way people interact, the way families interact. What is it? The average father spends something like 17 minutes a day interacting with his kids, and so the whole time.
So the technology and the communication and all this changed so much. Do I also hear you saying that with this change being so rapid that individuals don't have time to adjust to one change until they have to face another one? Do you see that in your people as they come?
That's correct. That's happening all over.
Okay.
Right.
Then I want to cross the bridge and ask my next question.
Great.
Since you sense this, and I can tell by your personality and your happiness, I mean, you really are cheerful, that there must be a lot of success in your program because you're enjoying talking about it. Take us through some of the programs, some of the activities. Let's suppose a group has come for a week, and I want to do it two ways if we can. One is with youth, a small young group, and then one with adults. What are some of the programs or ingredients that you try to instill in them so that they will have a rewarding time and can take it back into their community and make some changes in their lives?
Go ahead.
For example, we just had a women's retreat this past weekend where there were actual folks from 19 different communities that came and were involved in this, and started it off with just some activities where they're doing something like putting together 6-piece random puzzles, and they get split into a group with people they've never met before, and then toss in a rubber chicken, and they start going around the circle sharing things about themselves that are unique and interesting. They start to build a relationship there, and they start to break that ice and to laugh together and to feel more comfortable with each other, and then build on that with a topic where they're going to grow and they're going to learn. And this past retreat was more of a lecture format where they were looking at the seasons of life and how things change, and just dealing with some of the changes that they experience in their family and their different stages of life, and going into devotions and songs as well with our program, specifically doing things like tea parties, sitting 4 women together down at a table, and serving them tea and pampering them completely, and just giving them a chance to communicate and to learn. And I just the way we were talking, how society has changed, I don't think that women would typically do that as much anymore as they
were so surprised when they pulled up, and there were a couple of valets, we called them. It was Steve and myself dressed up like valets, opening the car door for them, helping them out with their suitcases, and it was kind of a struggle with the suitcases because they weren't used to having someone offer to carry their things for them, and just give them a fresh new perspective on themselves and on life and on relationships.
There's a book called Passages, and it sounds like you were using part of that as people go through different stages of their life, and that book indicates that a decade, up to 10, and the teenage years and so forth, and you we're introducing them again to remember what that's all about. Now let's go through a youth. They're very different in the sense that they haven't had as much experience, and I guess one way of putting that is they don't come with much baggage. So how do you deal with youth in a similar type
They're coming
program?
with more and more baggage, we're finding. It's interesting that kids are coming with more and more of those conflicts within them. But it's a lot of the same thing, because you take a cabin group of 10 kids, and they're coming from 10 different communities typically. They don't know each other, and so right away you have to put them in situations where they're going to be comfortable with one another and be able to laugh with each other and have a good time with each other. And until they can do that, then the next step is that they can share with one another and really get into some of the nitty-gritty of life and what's happening in our lives and what's good and what's bad and how do we deal with the bad and live with that and maybe change that.
What are some of the projects or exercises you would put a young group through?
To start off with, we'd typically spend several hours on a ropes course experience where they're given a task that they may or may not be able to accomplish, and they have to attack this task. And it might be as simple as a rope swing across a swamp and to get an entire group on a platform. And it's not so much whether or not they complete the task, but what they experience while they're doing it. And once they've reached a stopping point, it's to sit down and talk about it. Now, what did we learn from this? How did we relate here as a group? What was the real goal? What did we accomplish? And just teaching them to observe themselves and to look back at who they are and how they're acting. And that's a good starting point with a youth program.
It's a good starting point with adult programs
well.
too. We do the same thing.
We have in a democracy, one of the components is individualism, and that does have importance. And in dictatorial societies, that is missing, and that's very much tragic. But also at the same time, there's a balance. You're saying that along with your individualism, that you learn community also.
Mm-hmm. That community is really key. I think we've lost that sense of community. People don't know who their neighbors are anymore. Sometimes they don't even know the names of their neighbors. And so if we can build that sense of community into that family group, and we call them a family group. Family is even a foreign phrase or even a threatening phrase to some kids because that family is not a safe place. One girl I remember in particular, we were asking a really innocent question around a group of kids. The question was, what was your favorite room in the house when you were a kid and why? And we heard kitchen and we heard bedroom and we heard the basement and we heard the garage all the way around the room. An innocent question until we got to this one gal and she started to cry. And she said, I don't feel safe in any room in my house. That's a tragedy, but that's something like that can come out in a community type situation that camp provides, and then we can start helping that person to work through that situation in her life.
Thank you. Janelle Berg.
Wonderful stories, and I know camp has been a great experience for a lot of young people and adults as well. Do people come back to the same place over and over again?
Year after year after year. Yeah.
They pick a favorite and they come back.
I think so. People are we're creatures of habit, and we like the routines, we like the familiarity, and our camp provides that for a lot of people. We've been there 51 years now, and so there's a lot of roots there. A lot of people, in fact, say we went away for a year, we went to another camp just to try it out, and we're coming back.
Now I want to try on some different kinds of camps too. How about family reunions, Steve?
Tremendous time. Lots of interest in that. I think camp is a place where people come and they don't hear the phone ring, and they don't hear the TV in the background, and they don't hear all these familiar things. They get out of their rut at home and they come to a different place where the world slows down. And a lot of times they'll come there with family or with friends. And it's just a place that's kind of set apart, and where families can remember back and look to who they were, and they can laugh because a lot of them have been there in the same place as kids, coming back again. Now they're 30 or 40 years old as parents with their own kids. I remember a story of Carl. telling about his first son and coming running back from the lake at the first camp that he worked at. Carl is the director of development with our camp, and his son comes running back with his first fish, and he's so excited, and he just loves camp. And it turns out, I don't know, how long has that been, 30 years now?
30, 35. Yeah.
And he's now the director. His son is the director at that same camp again, and it's just kind of camp is a neat place for families.
We have some family reunions that come back year after year after year. One family reunion was there last summer, and they're coming back again this summer. They were going to go to California, and they thought about going to all these other different places, and they thought, no, we're going to go to a camp because of that whole feeling that you get when you walk in the door, that you're in this place that's set apart from the world.
And camps are not necessarily just an organized camp. It could be a 2 or 3 day affair that you organize, and you contact a camp and make arrangements for the time and
absolutely.
space. Is that correct?
We basically have 3 different kinds of groups that come, and one is the group that we advertise, we promote, and then we do the whole program. They come in and we have them from start to finish. Another would be a group that comes in and we plug into different periods of their stay. We might do an hour session here, and they might have a ropes course session here. We might assist them at the waterfront here, and of course provide the meal services for them. So that's the second group. And then the third is a group that comes in, and it's their show. All we do is host them, make sure that they're well fed and their bathrooms are clean, and they take care of their own program.
Now, some people might come to a camp or a camp location, particularly a beautiful one like one on the shores of Lake Coeur d'Alene, for just personal renewal. It would not be to be a part of an organized camp group, but just for a personal time for meditation. Is that also something that's done there? And I know there are other camps where it is maybe the main focus, perhaps even.
The majority of our facility is a group-oriented, but we also have a place set apart for individuals to come in and just stay when they need a place to get away, and a place where it's quiet, and a place where they can think when they're going through those difficult transitions in their lives. And I know there's a lot of facilities that offer that type of thing as well.
There's a real need for that out there. People, just a place to escape and go to.
We're getting very short on time, but I have a really difficult question for a short time. Both of you have worked in this for some time. What is the greatest lesson you've learned from being a director or assistant director at a camp?
Probably for me to be flexible and constantly be aware of the changes that happen, changes in society, changes in the finances, changes in the weather when a group calls up and they're going to be coming and they're all vegetarians, and we buy all the food and we get ready for them, and then all of a sudden there's an ice storm in November and they have to cancel, and here we have all this lettuce that we have to find a home for.
Steve, in 20 seconds.
Community is the biggest thing that I've learned, and how important that is to learn how to function with a community of others, and that's just a tremendous lesson.
Thank you both, Bob Barker and Steve Meyer, for this really interesting program on camps around the United States, and I appreciate very much your being here. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed this program, and I invite you to be with us again next week at this same time when we will discuss yet another issue. Until then, please have a good week.
The North Idaho College Public Forum was videotaped live from the studios of Instructional Technology on the campus of North Idaho College for viewing at this more appropriate time. We invite you to join us again next week for another all-new edition of the North Idaho College Public Forum on this public television station.